Hello everybody, it's John Weisenberger, and I wanted to make this video for you here today. For those of you who couldn't catch me at the BizCon Cleveland convention this year, it's an annual convention put on by the Greater Cleveland Partnership and the Council of Smaller Enterprises. And this year's convention was very good. I gave a workshop there that was about how to retain your existing customers and why it's valuable to do that. I had the opportunity to speak amongst a variety of very educational speakers. There was probably about 24 speakers giving workshops, and the general session speakers were all just wonderful, including Mel Robbins, who's a very famous TED talker and quite inspirational. So I wanted to give you a chance to see the presentation on customer retention. I hope you get a lot out of it. It was well received at the workshop, and I wanted to give a replay for it here where you can have an opportunity to learn more about customer retention. So the title of the workshop was Customer Retention Strategies, how you can keep your good customers coming back for more. So the question that really I was asking the audience was, how many people actually know what their customer churn rate is? I know that everyone out there has probably lost a customer at some point in your business life. And the question is, do you keep track of how many you actually lose, what's known as your customer churn? About 20% of the audience actually are keeping metrics on customer churn. And that was actually a little bit higher percentage than I would have anticipated in the audience. But it's something that this session will raise your awareness of the importance of it. So the average business out there, according to marketingwisdom.com, their study, their statistics, loses about 10 to 20% of their customers, clients, or patients per year. And that's a significant number. In fact, according to Accenture, the big consulting firm, they say that the hospitality industry, the home phone provider industry like AT&T and Time Warner Cable, as well as healthcare providers, these industries churn about 7% of their customers on an annual basis. If you look at mobile phone providers like AT&T, Sprint, Verizon, these guys are losing about 9%. And again, Accenture actually is calling this a switching economy. They're looking at all of the global choices people have today, the ability to change providers of any given product or service. And it's incredible how many people are actually moving on to other providers. The cable TV industry, one of our favorites, right? They're churning about 11% of their customers a year. So the Comcast or the Time Warner cables, these guys are losing about 11 clients out of every 100. And, I'm sure they would like to lower that rate. Incredibly, retailers churn about 30% of their customer base every year, according to the studies done by Accenture. And that is something that I'm sure everybody that's in the retail industry would clearly like to lower those numbers, right? So before we get started, for those of you who may know me, you're probably familiar with the work I do. But essentially, I'm a consultant and a small business coach, and I have a system I've developed called the Chain Reactions Marketing System. And I teach small business owners how to transform their business from being just an average and ordinary commodity type business into what I call the preeminent market leader, where they can stand out from all the others in the herd and be able to charge higher prices, be able to get better customer loyalty, generate higher profits and more referrals. And I've been doing this for over 30 years. I've worked for and with some major companies out there like United Parcel Service, Rockwell. I've worked with Digital Equipment Company, with Denso, Samsung, Weidmuller. And I've done this all over the world for the last 30 years, being either a global business manager or global product manager in my earlier marketing days. I've worked with some startups, small companies in the online world like Matchmarks.com, which was one of the earliest compatibility testing websites that went in conjunction with all the online dating websites back in the early 2000s. I worked with one of the first cloud-based food ordering companies that are out there. It was called donutstogo.com, and I've worked with vineyards and small manufacturers and service companies. I've written a couple books on the subject of international marketing as well as customer experience management. My most recent book, Chain Reactions, is how you can maximize profits and loyalty by focusing on customer experience. And of course, I do speaking and coaching engagements like the one I did at BizCon Cleveland here this year. So what I want to talk about today in this workshop is, number one, why customer retention marketing is undervalued in my opinion, and why most of the businesses that are out there are not putting the emphasis on it that I really feel they should be. We're going to talk about the reasons customers leave. I think it's important to have a good understanding of what is it that causes a customer, client, or patient to switch their current service or product provider. I'm going to give you 5 strategies or things you can do to stop those defections and keep those good existing customers from wandering away and taking their business elsewhere. And then I'm going to give you some resources that'll let you go further when you want to learn more about customer retention marketing, customer experience management, and how to keep your good, highly profitable customers from wandering away. So with that, one of the first things I want to do before we get started here is to ask you to keep a beginner's mindset. Now, if you're new to marketing or are not a marketer, this all may be new information to you. But if you've been around marketing for a while, you may say, yeah, John, I know all this. It's all, common knowledge and there's nothing new here. But I would ask you to keep a beginner's mindset because, even a professional golfer or baseball player or football player, a lot of times over time you tend to lose sight of the basics, and your golf swing will break down and you'll have trouble, or you won't be able to hit the ball if you're a baseball player. And what do those people do? Well, you go back to the basics. They either switch coaches on the team, and the first thing that new coach says is, let's get back to basics, or you bring in a personal position coach that'll help you improve your golf swing or your quarterback play. And it's all about getting the mechanics back to basics, because it's one thing to intellectually understand a principle, but it's a whole nother thing to be able to act on it and execute it correctly. So if you've heard some of this before, please keep a beginner's mindset. And I think if you re-energize your thoughts around the whole idea of customer loyalty and keeping your good existing customers, clients, or patients happy, I think you'll get a lot out of this educational session. So the first thing we want to talk about today is why retention marketing is undervalued. And the number one statistic that most people put out there is they say, gee, it's a lot cheaper to retain an existing customer than to acquire a new one. Now, a lot of that is because the cost of customer acquisition, when you look at trade shows or you look at advertising or you look at the marketing you do to pull people into your funnel, it tends to cost a lot more than what it would take to get an additional incremental sale out of a good customer that you've already onboarded, you've already got them familiar with your processes, you got them liking, and trusting you. The whole cost to serve is much lower for an existing customer than to acquire a new one. I'm going to give you a few other statistics here that, according to the Gartner Group, 80% of your company's future revenue will come from just 20% of your existing customers. So I think we all know, if you follow the old Pareto Rule of the 80-20 rule, those 20 or 2 out of 10, good clients you have, they're going to drive the growth of your business and your future revenue more than the other 8 out of 10 who may buy from you occasionally. So the question is, are you putting enough emphasis on those 20% that are going to drive your revenues, and are you giving them things that are incentives to stay with you? Are you doing customer appreciation events? Are you implementing loyalty programs? All those types of things that'll keep them coming back for more. It's shown by the White House Council of Consumer Affairs. Their studies have shown that on average, an existing loyal customer can be worth up to 10 times as much as their first purchase. So this is, again, the follow-on purchases that they do. You can upsell them maybe perhaps to a premium offering. When you look at it over time, they're going to be much more profitable and much more drivers of more revenue than a new customer that just comes in the door. If you look at the probability of making a sale on every customer interaction, it increases to 6 to 7 out of every 10 interactions you have. That's because, again, that existing customer knows and likes you and trusts you to be giving them the products or services they need. And again, when you buy a customer that is coming in through your advertising or your new client acquisition efforts, that customer may or may not make a sale, and it's certainly, there's no guarantee that they'd ever come back unless you focus on retaining them. Some more statistics. This one by beautomation.com says a 2% increase in customer retention has the same effect as decreasing your cost by 10%. Well, I already mentioned how the onboarding cost and the cost to serve is lower over time with your existing customers, right? So that kind of reinforces that. In The Ultimate Question, which is a book that talks about the Net Promoter Score metric, which is a metric around asking the ultimate question of your customer, saying, what, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend my product or service to one of your friends, relatives, or colleagues? And the people that answer that on a 9 or 10 scale, those people are your advocates. They're your evangelists that are going to go out and be positive voices of your customer base that are encouraging other people to use your product or service. And at the far low end, you have detractors that are saying bad things about you, and those can really impact your ability to retain other customers. We're going to talk more about that in a minute too, but this statistic says a 5% improvement in customer retention can yield between a 25 and 125% increase in profits. And again, it's because of that lower cost to serve and the opportunity to sell them higher margin premium offerings. And then lastly, by Bain & Company, this statistic says that by retaining just 10% of the customers you already have, you can increase the valuation of your company by 30%. Now this metric's a little harder to get some direct line of sight to, but there has been a study out there that showed the stock market returns of those customer-focused businesses like Zappos and Amazon.com or Southwest Airlines. The businesses that focus on providing an exceptional customer experience, which tends to help retain customers, it was shown that their average returns over the last 5 years of the study shows that they outperformed their peer group as a whole for those other businesses who had less of an emphasis on customer experience management. So from a valuation perspective, if you just look at the stock market returns and the valuation based on their stock prices, those companies that focus on retaining good, loyal customers by giving them really exceptional experiences tend to have a higher market valuation than those that didn't. The last reason I want to talk about here about why customer retention marketing is often undervalued is because of the chain reaction of viral communications that can happen in today's online world, where you have Twitter, you have Facebook, you've got all the social media, blogs, all the ways that people can tell a story, either positive or bad, about your company. And it's been shown through statistics that on average, Americans will tell 9 people about their good experiences, and I feel it's probably a little less, but 16 or more will tell everybody they know about their poor experiences. So in today's world, if you're not serving your customer well, the bad news can travel incredibly fast, and it can damage the reputation of your company to the point where you'll have significant bad publicity and bad public relations. And a good example of that is a story about United Airlines and a gentleman named Dave Carroll, who was and is a musician who was taking a flight on a United Airlines flight, right? And he was looking out the window as they were sitting at the gate, and he saw the baggage handlers throw his guitar. He saw one guy throw it up onto the conveyor or throw it to another guy, and didn't think a whole lot about it. He didn't think it was good, but when he got to his destination, discovered that his guitar had been broken. So he went to United Airlines and he went to their customer service people and he told them about what he witnessed and that they should compensate him for the repair or replacement of his beloved Martin guitar. And he couldn't get any satisfaction out of them. And over the course of several months, he escalated the issue, talked to various supervisors and managers, and still wouldn't get any satisfaction to get his guitar repaired. So being a musician, he decided to write a song called United Breaks Guitars, and he recorded a YouTube video that's kind of comical. And that YouTube video collected several million hits and views within just the first few weeks that it was out there. Well, consequently, after millions of views and this video going viral, it was estimated that at one point in time, United Airlines lost over $180 million of their market cap just based on the negative reaction people had towards the airline based on this video that went viral. Now, eventually Dave Carroll did settle with the airline about a year later, year and a half later, I forget the number. But when he did settle, they gave him $2,000, which he donated to charity. And of course, their stock price came back after this event. But the real point is the negative publicity you can get by not taking care of your good existing customers. If they decide to badmouth you and decide to put it out into the world with one of these viral communication channels today, it can have significant damage far beyond the loss of just that one customer. So that's the takeaway I want you to remember about from this slide. So the question is, why don't more businesses focus on customer retention marketing as part of their overall marketing plan? Well, one of the reasons is something I call the reality perception disconnect. And this is where more businesses tend to believe they're doing better than they actually are when it comes to customer service. So a gentleman named Brad Tuttle wrote a book called Customer Service Hell, and in it he talks about a study he did where he surveyed a bunch of companies that thought they were delivering superior customer service. In fact, 80% of the companies he surveyed said they believed from their internal metrics that they were delivering superior customer service. Then he went out and he interviewed customers of those same companies, and at the end of the day, only 8% of them said they thought those same companies were delivering a superior customer service. So the bottom line is most businesses that are out there are looking at their metrics, their customer service from an internal perspective, and it really doesn't matter what you think you're doing related to the level of service you're providing. What matters is what do your customers actually perceive and think you're doing. So I want you to think about this as you're putting together your customer service plans and your marketing plans, is to always look through your business through the eyes of your customer, try to walk a mile in their shoes, as they say, and remember that customer service, like beauty, is in the eye of the beholder, and what you think is a good customer service may not be perceived as being good by your customers, clients, or patients. So at the end of the day, one of the reasons customer retention is not as big a part of marketing plans is because a lot of businesses think they're doing better than they are. The other reason why retention marketing is not part of big overall marketing plans is this short-term versus long-term focus of most business today. If you're a public company, you're looking at business from the perspective of being the next quarter and what are the earnings per share. If you also look at it, most metrics today and most rewards and incentives are based on the short term, close the deal, negotiate the proposal, get the money in the door, because the sales guys are all given incentives based around commissions on new client acquisition. And a lot of businesses bringing a new client in the door is giving a higher level of commission than getting an incremental sale from an existing customer. The other part is when you look at the long-term customer lifetime value of an existing client, the metrics get a little squishier. It's kind of hard to measure necessarily what a customer retention loyalty program will return on investment because it takes longer to see the actual return. But if you're actually looking at metrics like Net Promoter Score or looking at customer satisfaction, you really need to take a much longer term view. So in our short term world today, Those things that bring in new customers get more focus in the budgets, and from some studies, as much as they claim as much as 80 to 90% of most companies' marketing plans. And customer retention marketing is given a smaller chunk of the pie, sometimes only 10% of the overall budget. So what I would recommend is try to allocate more towards customer loyalty programs, sponsoring customer appreciation events, doing things to say thank you to your existing customers, and doing things to make sure they're happy with you. So what are the reasons customers leave? Well, I'm going to give you some numbers here from the American Society of Quality Control, and at the low end, the lowest reason they would leave and the least likely reason they would change their current product or service provider is because they either move or they die. The next most unlikely reason in my mind why they would leave is because a friend encourages them to go elsewhere. So according to this American Society of Quality Control study, only 5% of the customers that would leave you are going to do so because some friend encouraged them to go to somewhere else by giving a referral or just by saying, hey, you know, I like him, come on over. A lot of you may think, well, they were lured away by the competitor because they offered lower price or they offered some other kind of incentive to come switch from you to them, right? Well, only 9% or 9 out of 100 lost customers are lured away by a competitive action, right? It's not that often. If you look at it, they left you because of a disappointment in your product or service, the quality, you had a quality problem or a service level problem, it's only 14%. So 14 times out of 100 they'll leave because you screwed up on a product delivery or a product didn't work as advertised. The big thing is, in my experience, you have to screw up several times before someone will bear the cost of switching to another competitor. So again, even poor product quality or delivery or service, again, people will forgive you most of the time if they've been an existing customer and they kind of know, like, and trust you. You have to, screw up quite a few times before they'll actually switch. So what do you think the number one reason is people switch? Well, according to the American Society of Quality Control, 68% of the times, almost 7 out of 10 times, when you lose a customer, client, or patient, it's because that customer has come to the conclusion that you don't care about them anymore. And I'll give you a story. Just recently, a big Fortune 100 company lost one of their major clients. And when they talked to that major client's senior management and asked them, why they were leaving them after a 20-year relationship, the number one reason they gave them was they felt that the big Fortune 100 company was no longer being transparent with them, that they were not giving them the full details on a recent quality problem. They felt that they were not, looking out for their best interest. And in the end of the day, they made an emotional decision that essentially said, we don't believe you have our best interest at heart anymore, and we're giving all your 2017 business to your competitor. So that what it all comes down to is 82% of the reasons that people leave and switch to another supplier, product or service, is because of unmet expectations. They expect certain things about doing business with you. They expect a certain level of engagement, certain level of quality, and if you're not meeting those expectations, they're going to leave. But most of the time, it's going to be because they believe you don't care about them more so than your product or service. So what it boils down to is, according to a study done by McKinsey a while ago, 70%, 7 out of 10 times, the decision to make a purchase or to remain with an existing supplier is ruled by emotion, not by logic. People and businesses tend to behave like Homer Simpson, where it's all about the feelings they get and whether they're happy about doing business with you, whether they're excited, whether they feel good. They're not acting like Mr. Spock, who would look at the cost-benefit analysis and look at the price and look at all the, the numbers around the whole decision. People don't make decisions based on logic. They make it on how they feel. And if you always remember that and remember about trying to make sure you understand the expectations of your customers making sure you're giving them positive, awesome experiences, the likelihood of them switching and going to a competitor is very low. So how can you do that? How can you make customers feel like you care about them, and how can you keep them from leaving? Well, I got 5 strategies for you here we're going to talk about, and 5 areas of your business you can take some actions in that can help reduce the amount of defections that you'd have. So the number 1 area is to have a caring attitude. Have empathy for your customer. Make sure all your customer-facing people are smiling when they talk to a customer. Make sure they're not being defensive. Don't use jargon if you're in the medical industry or the lawyer industry. Try to talk to them in a language they can understand. Use their name when you greet them or when you engage with them. You know, one study shows that in the hospitality industry, desk clerks only reference the customer by name in about 24% of the interactions. So just creating those personal connections with your customers or clients or patients and having a caring attitude and showing empathy towards what they're experiencing can go a long way in building those relationships that last a long time and can keep a loyal customer coming back for more. Second thing you can do is where you have the opportunity, allow customized practices. People today want personalized, individualized services. And if there's a way your business can empower customer-facing employees to make decisions on the spot as to whether to allow a fee to be waived or a price to be reduced, or maybe a customer needs its credit line raised for a short term. In fact, I've seen businesses that had multi-million-dollar customers that refused to take an order because that multi-million-dollar customer had exceeded their credit limit. Well, you might want to say, look, we'll get that resolved and we'll make the shipment to you anyway so you don't shut your factory down or something like that, right? So find ways that you or your employees give them latitude to make the decision to offer a customized, personalized service. And if it doesn't hurt your profitability, if it doesn't violate any particular moral, legal, or safety rule, then look for ways to do that. I use the example of this pizza here with 4 different toppings in 4 different areas of the pizza, and that is a perfect example of a customized product delivered to a customer who ordered that. Now, I would challenge you to go to any of the major national chains who have switched everything to online ordering today, and I would challenge you to get that pizza. Today, if you go to any of the online ordering pizza places, they will have a drop-down menu that'll let you pick the crust, it'll let you pick your toppings, it'll let you pick your sauces you want on it, thin crust, thick crust, spicy sauce, regular sauce, but you can only get a pizza with all those things in the entire pizza. You can't begin to order a pizza with 4 different toppings on 2 slices each. So in this case, if you're a small pizza shop that's competing against the large national chains, being able to take an order to do this, whether it's walk-in or on the phone. And the other thing today, a lot of people don't offer ordering on the phone, which we're going to talk about in a minute here when it comes to convenience. But look for ways to customize your processes. Look for ways that if it's necessary to deviate from a policy to keep a customer satisfied. Again, if you're not impacting your profitability or violating any safety, legal, or moral rules, find ways to let your employees do that. The number 3 thing is, if you would ask yourself, what's the one thing I don't have enough of in my life? The answer is time. So any way you can provide more convenience for your customers to allow them to self-serve, to have a self-service aspect of your business if possible, that's a good thing. If you can provide 24/7 service and access, that's always a good thing. If you're a manufacturer or someone who provides information, make it easy to get that information. Let them download your specs or your drawings. Let them download information. If they need to make appointments online, if you're not doing that today, allow them to schedule an appointment with you online. Allow them to perhaps get a return material authorization online instead of having to call somebody. So anything you can do to make it more convenient for access to your product or to you as an individual, anything you can do to save them time will help generate better experiences. Number 4, anything you can do to compress cycle times is always a good thing. If you can keep customers from being on hold on your phone, if you can make that hold time less, that's a good thing. If you can make the time it takes to deliver your product less, if you look at Amazon and some of the new ways of delivering things, people expect quicker response. They want instant gratification. You want to be able to deliver things quicker. If you have someone in your customer service department, make sure they understand what the cycle time is. Set the expectation that it might take a week to actually close the order or ship the product. But anything you can do to compress cycle times across your business is a good thing. So look for processes in your business where you can make things go faster for your customer. Then lastly, number 5 is what I call committed follow-through, and it's all about when someone gets a problem or an engagement with a customer, that person needs to take ownership for it. You need to encourage the environment where people, if you touch it, you own it. And this means if you end up getting someone on the phone and you have to do a handoff to another department, and that department then has to go solve the customer's problem, that means the first person that touched it needs to follow up with that other department and then call back or email the client and make sure that they know what's going on. In fact, one of the biggest things you can do to keep from having an unsatisfied customer is to make sure that you either solve the problem quickly, or if you can't solve it quickly, then make sure you're giving them constant feedback and status updates. In fact, I had one person that came up to me after the workshop and said, you know, this is a big problem in the roofing industry or the landscaping industry. She said, you know, I scheduled this roofing job. I was told I was on the schedule. Weeks went by, no calls, no dates were given. I never knew when the guy was going to come out, if he was going to come out. That's the kind of stuff that annoys people, and the next time they go to look for a roofer, I bet she's not going to recommend that particular company, all because even if they did a good job, they kept her hanging and she could never schedule her life around when will they be out to take care of my roof. So committed follow-through means all the aspects of the connection with the customer where you would either tell them what's going on or make sure you don't have to repeat information when the handoff occurs internally, all those types of things. So the top 5 summary is: have a caring attitude, look for ways to do customized practices, provide convenience, compress cycle times, do a committed follow-through. There's a picture of a mind map over here with each of those 5 characters. There's a picture with each of those 5 categories. And if you'd like to get a copy of that mind map, plus a copy of my Chain Reactions book about how you can improve the whole customer experience management process, if you give me your email address, you go to this bit.ly/Chain Reactions book. I'll let you download a free copy of the mind map, which gives you more detail under each of those 5 categories, as well as you can get a free PDF copy of my book, Chain Reactions. So I hope you found this video interesting and useful. Again, I had a great time delivering at the BizCon Cleveland convention this week, and I thought it might be good to shoot this quick video and let you guys have a benefit if you couldn't make it out to the conference. So if you are in the Cleveland, Akron area and you can get there next year, look for it. It usually takes place in October, and look forward to seeing you there.